The very last edition of the show, Frontier Opening Bell. I'm Temple Ashaju. Thank you for coming on the show this morning, gentlemen. Joshua Odebisi from Vetiva Capital Management. I appreciate your presence. And Bosin Omofaye, our executive editor here at Frontier Africa Reports. Of course, it's the last edition of the show, and of course, the very first after Eid Mubarak. So let's tee off with the market. Where did we finish off before the break? We had Nigeria positive by some 0.10%. Ivory Coast, where you have the BRVM stock exchange jumping 1.37%. The Egyptian stock exchange in Cairo was also positive by 0.77%, and you have Nairobi Stock Exchange in Kenya closing down by 0.98% as at Thursday, because today is the public holiday in Nairobi in Kenya generally. Johannesburg Stock Exchange was down by 1.86% yesterday, which is Thursday again. Looking at the Eastern African headlines now, you got Safaricom's 2020's dividends and, of course, earnings all released. Dividends of 92 cents per share, and then you have profit after tax shrinking by 6.8% all the way to 68.6 billion Kenyan shillings. In Ethiopia, where we have more stories today, foreign telcos can now launch mobile money from May 2022. That's about this time next year. The Ethiopian Commodity Exchange is now to start trading in minerals. That, of course, we understand is in collaboration with the Ministry of Minerals and Petroleum. Merge Exchange, further delay in release of annual results, May 21. Bosin, you are the one to help us break down these headlines from the eastern part of Africa.
I think, thank you, Temple. I think I'll speak only to Safaricom earnings, and I think Joshua will pick up on the fintech and the whole issues around mobile money. He's in banking industry, so let me talk about Safaricom. I think those earnings came in yesterday morning. Folks within the East Coast, it was the biggest earnings on any African exchanges yesterday, Thursday. So it really grabbed everybody's attention because, of course, everyone knew that this is the largest company on the Nairobi Securities Exchange by market cap, accounts for more than 50% of the total equity cap. It's also a big company in terms of dividend and in terms of product, which is and its main product is M-Pesa, which is the world's #1 well-acclaimed fintech service for East Africa and for Kenya in the main. And with the bidding that they're doing for the Ethiopian market, M-Pesa came into fore. But again, when you look at the news around the earnings, because of the pandemic of last year, voice was down, M-Pesa was down a little bit, even though free M-Pesa was done for a period of time. Safaricom lost about more than $100 million because of that free M-Pesa money transfer that the government said Safaricom should do for the citizens during the pandemic to ease the burden of the COVID-19. So the numbers came in not good at all, but the good news was that the company has forward guidance that is positive in terms of EBITDA, in terms of what to expect, in terms of capex for the new year 2021, 2022. You know, Safaricom's year end is March, so it's reporting into the first quarter of this year. Then this full year will be into first quarter of 2022 as well. So the forward guidance is good, and shareholders can look forward to at least about I think about 92 shillings in a share dividend. I think roughly grossly is about 56 billion shillings that the company would pay. So there's some cash on the table for investors despite the pandemic period and the outcome of that on the bottom line. Pre-tax profit was down in slightly over 11%. Net profit was down about 8%. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bosin. Joshua, you got the telco story to deal with their mobile money there. We understand that there's been this tussle between the non-financial and the financial at the moment in Ethiopia.
Well, from my understanding of the story, the way I'd like to approach it is just to look at what the government is attempting to do, because basically what they're saying is they're going to launch their own mobile money platform on the government-controlled service, which is called Ethiopia, I believe. So they are basically giving a bit of a gap. So they say a year from now, that's literally 12 months from now, other foreign telcos will be allowed to do mobile money, but for this 1 year, we are going to do it. We are going to have the platform. Their ambitions are pretty grand. They want to have up to 33 million customers on the platform in the next 5 years. They say about, I think, 40% of all the transactions to be conducted on that platform. So they're trying to give themselves a bit of a head start. Now, the issue obviously is that I'm not sure what their level of expertise is, whether they have the right people or the right infrastructure in place. One thing I know just based on experience is that government-run organizations are not the most efficient, so they might not move as quickly as a private company would with regards to reacting to whatever issues they might come up against, whatever feedback they might get from customers and things like that. They might just want to plow ahead with tunnel vision. Now, that is one of the biggest issues I can see with this kind of strategy, but it sort of makes sense because they feel if they just open up the bidding rounds and allow all these telcos, these foreign telcos to come in and give, this service, then obviously whatever the government or whatever the government-run service provides will be ignored to some certain extent or will not have a place. But to be honest, that's where competition comes in, and that's what actually breeds improvement. So giving yourself a 1 year head start, if you don't use it properly, you are still going to waste that opportunity, and other telcos will come in and learn from your mistakes and do it better than you and take all of your customers. So I still think that it's a little bit of a misguided approach, but from their own perspective, it makes sense.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Joshua. Let's move on now to the Western and Nigerian African headlines. Western and Nigerian headlines, rather, where Nigeria generates some 392.7 billion naira from company income tax in the first quarter of the year. BUA Group Chief Rabiu meets Ghanaian President over AfCFTA. You have NCR Nigeria's full year 2020 is reporting some 343% growth in total income to 160 billion naira. The Bank of Ghana lists and announces licensed primary dealers, bond market specialists. CFAO Cote d'Ivoire profits drops by 28.08% in 2020. Let me come back to you, Joshua, with these headlines, beginning with the company income tax reports for the first quarter of the year. How well do you think they've done?
Well, I wouldn't say I can judge specifically how well they've done, just that figure is somewhat encouraging. I know that they got a lot of income tax from Dangote Cement and a fair bit from the banks. Well, obviously, income tax is based on performance. Performance is based on economic activity, and all I can say is that economic activity is only slowly, starting to recover. Hopefully, when we see GDP figures for Q1, we'll have a better understanding of where we're at in the phases of recovery. But I mean, just looking at this story, I think first of all, I want to talk about BUA Group. I'm a bit encouraged because we always talk about Dangote to a certain extent, and he is a titan of industry. But having one Dangote in Nigeria is not enough for an economy the size of Nigeria's, with ambitions that we have. We need several Dangotes and several titans of industry leading various industries, or even the same industry, generating even more income tax. Because like I said, Dangote Cement or Dangote Group was a massive contributor to that income tax receipt. But if you have BUA Group and you have other companies, doing similar things, and with the help of the AfCFTA, I believe that they will be able to do so across Africa, then we'll even be able to generate more money with regards to income tax receipts. As for the NSIA, and this one is a little bit interesting because their total income went up by 343%. That they're an insurance company, and it's always good when you see insurance companies starting to generate more income, because it means that maybe they're able to gain more market share, or more people are becoming more aware or more sensitized towards.
If I may come in quickly, Joshua. So sorry, my apologies there. The NSI is in Nigeria. This NSI is the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, led by Ucheoji, it's their full year 2020. But you're very correct. They did very well for last year, considering the state of things.
All right, thank you. Okay,
then. Well, then let's then defer the rest to you, Bosun. The rest of the headlines.
Yeah, sorry. You know, the NSIA is this. The acronym sounds very similar with the folks in Côte d'Ivoire, which is listed on the BRVM. So the NSIA sometimes gets a bit confusing for me. So our apologies there. We ought to have clarified that is the Nigeria's NSIA. Apologies there to Joshua and any of our viewers who would have mixed that up easy to production. Sorry. So it is the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority. Actually, the numbers came in during the holiday period. So we're just looking at the numbers, and I think they made a couple of very good numbers based on the fact that there was this very strong rally at the global market space for last year in developed economies where NSIA has some of its funds domiciled and managed by international fund managers and what have you. So they recorded some pretty good numbers across board. Right now, Ucheoji and the rest of his team are in overseas. They're having negotiations with some of these fund managers and others. They're moving forward with some of the projects they're working on with the portfolio. So they are currently in Europe at the Western Hemisphere right now, meeting with a whole number of people. So that is one news we want to keep everyone on the radar. In terms of their investment in infrastructure, in healthcare, in a few other areas, I think they came up pretty fine for last year. The numbers look tremendously much bigger than 2019, despite the year pandemic, but the 2020 pandemic, I think they should be given a whole lot of credit. I agree so completely with Joshua when it comes to the BUA. We need hundreds, we need tens of dozens and more of Rabiu and Aliko Dangote across Nigeria, across West Africa, across the entire continent to do a whole lot of infrastructure in industrialization, manufacturing that Africa very sorely needs. And I'm quite encouraged by what the Vice President said on Tuesday before the holiday, that the Buhari's administration has accepted the recommendations of the Economic Advisory Council led by Dr. Duyi Salami and the rest of them to mainstream manufacturing to catalyze Nigeria's job creation, dynamic growth, and what have you. I think now that they have agreed that manufacturing will be the focus for the administration, we now need to hit the ground running as to how do we go. So the whole company income tax can go into hundreds, several more hundreds of billions, and even $1 trillion more than the potential for industrialization across board. We should be talking about company income tax in excess of 2-3 trillion naira tempo. If we have everything moved in, company income tax alone can go from 3 trillion to 5 trillion, looking at the potential. So you can actually push oil aside, as it were, and just be on industrial manufacturing trajectory from small to medium to big companies, multinationals within the country, outside the shores, raw materials, creating jobs. So we're just scratching the surface tempo. A quarterly company income tax of about less than 400 billion naira for the size and potentials of this country is a drop in the ocean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bosun. Let's move on to the South African markets, where Hyprop Investments launches closes surprise 358 million rands equity raise. Tiger Brands half-year earnings per share up by some 295% to 305%. HEPS climbs 48% to about 55%. Namibia's Deep Yellow Limited names Chris Salisbury as chairman. And the ZSE, Caledonia, posts gross revenue growth of $25.7 million in the first quarter. RBZ sells $1.17 billion to production sector via FX auctions since June 2019. Bosun, let's bring this to you for analysis.
I'm just going to look at maybe just one item. If you look at the high property investment, what those folks are trying to do right now is they made some little money. Things were beginning to look a little bit better in a manner of speaking, by the way, if you ask me. So that's launching and closing a surprising 358 million rand equity raise. That's quite big. For Caledonia, which is a mining company in Zambia, a gross revenue of $25.7 million. Caledonia is one big name, by the way, in mining within the African space in the first quarter. Salisbury as the new chairman for Namibia's Deep Yellow Limited. Well, this leadership change come and go, so don't worry too much about it. You always see new things happening, like you find the former chairman and CEO of MTN Group now will be on the board of the JSC in the next 1 month or so. So this is always happening. I'll speak to Tiger Brands earnings per share. What you want to look at for a Southern African company is the headline earnings per share, which is HEPS, which climbed between 48 and 55%. So this outlook from Tiger Brands shows that the comeback for the the comeback from the virus lockdown is beginning to look really good for South Africa, despite the whole worries right now, which is valid in terms of the infestations, in terms of the shortage of vaccine and testing and all of that the country has to deal with. But our first quarter was still good, coming through towards the end of last year to the end of March for this particular company. I'm sure the FX option market is better handled by those who know. That's Joshua.
All right, and thank you very much, Bosin. North African headlines now, where Nile Scan bids for majority stake in Alexandria Medical Centre. B investments to pay annual cash dividend of £1 plus. Recap financials swings to 360,596 Egyptian pounds loss in the first quarter of 2021. In Morocco, the stock market investor confidence there, the index stands at 60.9 points. Before I come to you, Bosin, let me hear your thoughts on the Morocco stock market index, perhaps as it relates to Nigeria, Joshua, in terms of investors' confidence generally.
Well, so like I've said before, the whole point is that we've seen a lot of investors go towards other markets outside of Nigeria. You've seen Egypt to a large extent, maybe even Ghana, Kenya, South Africa. But this is all to do with policy, and it's all to do with flexibility around, movement. Basically, being able to enter and exit a market is the most important thing for a foreign investor before they come into your market. And when they are able to come in and exit, then chances are things on ground, the situation on ground is going to be more conducive for development, for growth, for investment, because there are always opportunities everywhere. But it's all about being able to get a good return on the investment and knowing that your money is going to be able to leave the country when the time comes. And I think that this is something that these North African countries, Morocco, Egypt, and the like have really, mastered, and they understand more than we do, unfortunately. And so that is why we're seeing that the investor confidence is quite high, both locally, I'm sure, and internationally as well.
Thank you very much, Joshua. Can I quickly pick your brain on the Zimbabwe's FX auction market under the Southern African headlines that we had earlier? I wanted your thoughts on that, basically.
Well, I'm not fully versed with with bonds in that market, so I can't really give a fully clear-minded response on that at the moment.
Okay, then, thank you so much. Let's get your thoughts, Bosin, on the Northern African headlines.
Well, for North Africa, I think the issue around the stock market confidence is quite well. If you can't get the confidence, you're not going to get investors coming in as good as you would want them. For Egypt, you look at the earnings around the cash dividend, 1.25 Egyptian pound per share for B investments. I'm particularly interested, as I always said, about the pharmaceuticals, the healthcare, the medical industry in Egypt, and to an extent in Morocco, where you have a Nile Scan, which is laboratory services and all of that, bidding for majority stakes in Alexandria Medical Centre. I think these folks seem to have gotten a good hang of it. Healthcare is important, pharmaceutical is important. we hope that the whole arrangement under CACOVID group and the central bank and the economic sustainability plan will be able to get us to mainstream our pharmaceuticals and whatever industries. We need a whole lot more of them listed on the stock exchange. We don't have EMSO Pharmaceutical yet, which is one of the biggest names in industrial drug manufacturing on our exchange or any of our market. Even the company has an initial debut bond offering on the market currently. It will be good to see this company listed, whether it's an OTC or whatever it wants to do. We want to see more laboratories, pharmaceuticals in Nigeria also get listed on the exchange. You see, it begins to bring a whole lot more confidence into it. We can't talk about banks and insurance only on a daily basis. It is time to put our healthcare, our research facilities, our hospitals back. You know, Eco Hospital was listed many years ago. It went down now to almost ground zero. There are a lot of new hospitals now in Lagos, in Abuja, and elsewhere that we can list. Perhaps some of the companies or healthcare that Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, NSIA, is investing in can also come for listing on the market. That would also help very, very well bringing them to the market. So I give it to the North African folks when it comes to healthcare, medical, pharmaceuticals, and the likes.
Thank you very much, Bosin Omofaya, Executive Editor, for this analysis. Joshua Debisi, appreciate your presence and your insights shared on all of these headlines as well. He joined us from Vetiva Capital Management. Thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of the program this morning, and we thank our viewers for watching. This has been the show for today. From the opening bell, I'm Temple Ashaju. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.